All right, so this is a wild story. Alabama basketball, Brandon Miller playing last night, dropping 41 and hitting the game-winning layup, and all of college basketball, all the media is outraged. Guys, I'm going to give you the full Queen's Gambit. By the way, that's a great show, The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, but I'm going to give everyone the full gambit on the situation. It is real iffy, and it's kind of one of those things where it's looking like Alabama can try and get off on like a technicality with Brandon Miller, and I'm going to try and explain it to the best of my ability and give both sides their overall points, because you've got Alabama saying one thing and you've got the rest of college basketball saying another thing, and it's just a really interesting situation with Alabama being ranked, top 2 in the country. It's really Houston and them. They're a lock for a 1 seed. Brandon Miller is a lock for a top 5 pick, and all this stuff going down with Nate Oates coming out apologizing for just a horrible quote that he had. So let's just go through some tweets. It says Brandon Miller had a gun in his car. His teammate texted him, indicated he was having an incident with someone, and requested that Miller bring him the gun. And then Miller drove the gun to the scene where it was used to kill a woman who really thinks that's just no big deal. And then you've got an Alabama fan responding, that's not what happened. Miller was already on the way when the text was sent. Are you serious right now? That scenario seems worse. How do you know he saw that text before he got there? So, it's one of those situations where you had Brandon Miller's lawyer put out a statement that's obviously going to be biased and make Brandon Miller look a little bit better, but it seems like they're trying to argue Brandon Miller was driving to his friend's house with the murder weapon, but he didn't know the murder weapon was in the car, and he didn't know that the murder was going to happen, but he was driving there at 1 a.m. It seems like real. I mean, how do you pull that off if you're Alabama? But that's what the lawyer is saying. If the statement provided by his lawyer is correct, he was already headed to the location before the text. That matters. LOL. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. And Miller's dash cam confirms that. Correct. Not if you're a moron. So it's like the idea that they're trying to argue is Brandon Miller was already going to the location of the murder before he received the text from his friend saying the incident was about to happen, or a fight was going to happen, because it was looking like that text was sent to Brandon Miller, and then he brought the gun in response to that text. But Brandon Miller's lawyer is trying to argue that no, he was already going there. Mind you, this is all at 1 a.m. He was already going there with the gun, and the gun was used. He didn't know that's what was going to happen and things like that. So it's a real, kind of cluster of a situation where the NCAA and all of their people are clutching pearls right now. They have to be completely pissed off. If you're Alabama, I thought Alabama would have at least half-assed an attempt to try and be like, oh, we're going to suspend Brandon Miller for 2 games or 1 game. But he played last night and dropped 41 points. And, Alabama really didn't play that well. South Carolina's not good. They went to overtime, I think, and Alabama won by 2 on a game-winning layup. In a best-case scenario, Brandon Miller brought a weapon to a place that directly led to the murder of a young woman. That's best-case scenario. It's inexcusable. Alabama is still allowing him to play. So that's kind of the media response to all of this. And then you have fans saying, love how you, like everyone else, are leaving out the most important details to your best case scenario. Best case scenario is Brandon Miller returned a gun left in his car to its rightful owner because he didn't want the gun in his car. He didn't even touch the gun. Yeah, that just seems like cope from an Alabama fan. So you're telling me Brandon Miller is driving at 1 a.m. to return a gun? It just doesn't add up. But again, it's one of those things where I don't want to call it a technicality, but it's kind of seeming like Alabama is saying we can kind of get around this. And there's really, like, what does the NCAA step in a situation like this? Or, like, I don't even know what would happen. I guess I'm going to give everyone my conspiracy on what I think the NCAA is actually going to do, because you look at the full picture of college basketball recruiting and how corrupt it is and how much cheating there is. I think it's blatantly obvious that a lot of these SEC programs that were getting 5 stars like 2, 3, 4 years ago, like Alabama, like Nate Oates, they already had kind of a mind that Alabama was blatantly cheating and recruiting in basketball before they became this good, like 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, the team was like a bubble team and they were getting multiple 5 stars. My guess is the NCAA, they know that teams cheat. They don't punish anyone. I mean, look at Kansas basketball and their recruiting. They could have given them a crazy penalty and they got off very easily. But now the NCAA, because of this incident and because Alabama is allowing Brandon Miller to play, I think they're just going to nuke Alabama basketball and probably launch an investigation. I mean, they have to have some sort of dirt on Nate Oates and that program. And this offseason, I think they're going to go crazy on them because this makes the NCAA and like the whole March Madness, if Brandon Miller plays in March Madness, even if you think that he wasn't, I mean, he was involved. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where it's a real, like, dicey thing. How much of an involvement was it? Can you kind of get out? You know, he was just returning the gun, but it was at 1 a.m. He didn't know the text was coming through. He was already driving there. There's just a lot of convenient things about the lawyer telling Brandon Miller's story. And I mean, the NCAA, and you've got people from the media tweeting about this and being like, it's crazy. All the lawyer's statement does is confirm he drove the weapon to the scene moments before the murder. If I asked for a steak knife at a dinner and then turned and stabbed someone with it, are you guilty of a crime? If you texted me and said that you'd just been in a fight and asked me to bring you a knife, yeah, you very well could be. I would at the very least have no argument against the moral wrong of having provided the murder weapon. And then the argument against that would be Brandon Miller was already driving to where the murder was taking place, you know, before he saw the text. That's his argument. So he was driving to the place and then he got the text. He didn't get the text and then go. I believe that's what it is. So this whole thing is a really interesting situation. I mean, this is like an Alabama fan account. I can't wait for this guy to have 40 tonight. And he actually did. He scored 41 points yesterday. This was in reference to the game yesterday. And you can see it's ratioed to shit. It has, 953 comments. A lot of quote tweets. It has some likes, I guess, but, a lot of people are outraged at this situation overall that, Brandon Miller is playing and not at least facing some punishment. It's just a real shady situation, and it's not a good look for the NCAA, especially this close to March Madness with Alabama being clearing away a 1 seed. They're locked into a 1 seed unless they lose every game. So we'll have to see what happens. I don't know if the NCAA would do something. I guess Alabama might just be trying to let this situation blow over. I mean, I don't know. We've got even Dickie V chiming in. I was shocked by the comments of Alabama's Nate Oates yesterday, but I am doubly shocked that Brandon Miller is playing tonight. Isn't providing a gun to a teammate that was used in a murder a serious offense? No, Dickie V, go research the facts. You have a pretty large platform, and before you start making statements, please go educate yourself on the topic. He was a witness from the state and has not and will not be charged with a crime. He also scores 18 points and adds 8 rebounds, so that matters too. Yeah, I think the other thing, and this is what people were talking about, if this was a kid that was averaging 5 points and 2 rebounds, he would either be off the team or indefinitely suspended. That's also very, very likely. So, this is a thing where these situations, it's just shocking to see a kid that close to being involved in a murder not like playing. I don't know. I've just never really seen a situation like that. So I don't know what's going to happen. Nate Oates came out last night because he had a horrible statement a few days ago talking about it was the wrong place, wrong time. And then he said his statement was, just not good and insensitive, and he didn't have all the facts and whatever. But it's sounding like that's the argument that they're trying to use for Brandon Miller. Like, the argument is, oh, he was just returning a gun. But why are you returning a gun at 1 a.m.? So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to let this play out and see what happens. This is not a good look for the NCAA this close to March Madness, though. So we'll see what happens, guys. But that is the recent update on the Brandon Miller situation. He played last night, scored 41 points, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.